Good morning. It's March the 23rd, and this is the next installment in the little ditties that I do pretty nearly every day. I thought I'd share a story with you. Again, this is from my teenage years. One day, a friend called me up, Dave. Dave called me up and said, let's go tubing, something I'd never done before. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this is when you find a river somewhere in Nova Scotia, everyone gets on inner tubes and goes down the river and rendezvous with a parent or someone else at a certain place, and everything's safe. Um, and this was back in the days when there actually were inner tubes. I don't think car tires have inner tubes anymore. But anyway, there you go. This was the plan, and obviously at age 15 or 16, whatever I was, there were girls involved, and that was the principal motivation for wanting to participate in this. And I don't remember what river it was on, but it seems to me it was down towards Windsor. You know, it might have been a Gaspereau River because there's lots of Gaspereau rivers, or a Salmon River because there's lots of salmon rivers. I don't know. Anyway, the place where we were dropped off, there was a field between the road and the river. And when we got out, there was a fence, you know, your typical sort of farm fence made of wood and stuff like that. And we were told there, because there are other kids gathering, um, that the farmer didn't particularly like people accessing the river through his property, and he left a bull in this particular field. Well, I looked up and down, I didn't see a bull anywhere, and it was quite a distance to get across, and most of the kids were running to get there. Dave and I climbed the fence and started on our way. Still no sign of the bull. But about halfway, just on the bluff of a bit of a hill, I noticed that there was a bull standing there. And I pointed it out to Dave. Now, I got to tell you that I didn't know very much about bulls. I mean, everything I knew about bulls I learned from Matador Bugs Bunny. Um, and this bull didn't look as menacing as Bugs Bunny's bull does, but it was menacing enough. Um, and I noticed, I looked over at Dave, and Dave was getting down on his knees. I said, Dave, what are you doing? He said, John, I think it's time that we got on our knees and prayed. Thought for a moment, and I said, Dave, I think, is there any chance, I have a better idea. Any chance that we could run and pray? And that's indeed what we decided to do. But like I say, we're about halfway. We didn't decide to run back up the hill to the fence. We ran down the hill to the river. I think I remember my prayer as well. It was something like, "Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God." Anyway, we made our way to the river, and we tubed down the river and met the rendezvous of one of our parents, whoever had dropped us off, and that was all good. Point of the story, of course, is the bull and the prayer, and it got me thinking that prayer. We think of prayer as being words and setting aside time for prayer, and it is. That's a very important part of prayer. But it's not just about that. Prayer, I think, is supposed to instill in us a way to respond to life, whatever circumstances life tosses our way. I think prayer is meant to help us respond to those things in a very prayerful way. So it's not just about getting down on our knees and praying, although that's an important part. It's also about, running for safety or doing something. So I think, a nurse who's changing a bedpan is doing a prayerful thing. A parent who's caring for a child who's caring for a parent, a neighbor who calls up a parent, a neighbor who calls up a neighbor and just asks how things are. These are all prayerful acts, and we shouldn't dismiss them as just things that we do, but they are a part of our faith and an important part, and a way in which we respond to things like pandemics. We can do that prayerfully and try to care for one another in the midst of all these things. I've said before that sometimes I embellish stories. So that story I just told you about the bull, it's absolutely true, except for the conversation between Dave and me about prayer. That part I added later, just so you know. Once we saw the bull, we started running. But I think I did pray, "Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God." And that's a perfectly legitimate prayer to pray in those sort of circumstances. But running was an appropriate part of that prayer as well. So I hope everyone has a good day, and God bless everyone.